Well, it's dead. Thomas and Friends is officially dead. In the light of the recent news of Thomas's brutal murder and the rather blunt smackdown that was my Bwebba review, I decided I wanted to talk about something positive. Thomas the Tank Engine is very special to me. It's special to me and thousands of others because it's more than just some kid show. It was a show that treated its young audience as intellectuals through the strengths of its writing, its characters, its visuals, its score, its tone, and its setting.
You've got to remember that you're not merely writing for children, you're writing for the mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, grandfathers, grandmothers, who've got to read the children, the stories aloud.
The thing that I knew about Thomas, and that whether Britt actually told me this or it was just came out through conversation, was not to play down to the kids. She didn't want anybody feeling like they were played down to it.
Kids aren't stupid, and they will appreciate quality content. And quality content will stick with them.
And then the classic eyes rolling around, I can never get enough of that.
The fact there is a large adult Thomas fandom is total proof of that. And that is something the corporate figureheads at Mattel will never, ever understand. Mattel is trying everything in their power to make Thomas a crappy baby show for a brain-dead audience that just doesn't exist. So in retaliation, I'm going to try and do everything in my power to use my platform to show to the public that Thomas can be and has been so much more than that. There's a plethora of special episodes in Thomas that do something really significant, whether you knew it or not. So here's the first video in a little series of hopefully many, where I take a past episode of any era and talk about something significant that it did. I don't know how far this will go or if this will catch on, but if it does, then let's give it a solid start. The first episode I'd like to talk about is Henry's Hero. I praised Henry's Hero in the Bwebba video for how it utilized Hero. And while I love Hero in this, Henry's Hero does something else much more significant than that. Something that is somewhat rare in Thomas episodes. And that is having two flawed protagonists. There's a formula to Audrey stories or classic Thomas stories. Usually in episodes with two main characters, one of them is clearly in the right and the other is clearly wrong. Karma catches up with the wrong one, they learn their lesson, and the right one is the hero of the story. See Dirty Objects, Rock and Roll, Mavis, Bullseyes, Thomas Percy and the Squeak. The list is endless. Henry's Hero dares to try something a little different here though. In this story we have two main characters, Henry and Hero. Both are presented with a situation that they have to deal with. They take on a bad lot of coal while in the midst of getting this very big job done. Henry chooses to give up and go home, and Hero chooses to keep going despite the consequences of what the bad coal will do to him. It's interesting because the first half of this episode has you side with Hero. Henry's depicted as wrong for giving up and leaves the story pretty quickly, and we're supposed to cheer on Hero to get the job done. But then halfway through, Henry gets pulled back into the plot, and the audience's perspective is shifted. The consequences of Hero's choice catch up with him and he breaks down, and the audience is now prompted to cheer on Henry to be a Chad and super rescue the train. This choice of narrative is so fascinating, and it makes each character very endearing and relatable. If this was an Audrey story, Henry would probably be the right one and Hero the wrong. Hero would break down, Henry would come and save Hero, yada yada yada, with the clear moral of, being cautious about your health. Or maybe it'd be the other way around, and Hero would press on and finish the work on his own, while Henry would be reprimanded by Sir Topham Hatt for abandoning his work. Both would make for very fine stories on their own. But no. This story asks you to see both characters' perspectives. Both characters are right in their own ways, but they're also wrong. Henry's wrong for giving up so quickly, but he was right to be cautious. Hero was right not to give up, but he was also wrong for not being cautious of his health, which bites him in the end later. It's not a clean-cut black and white story. It's a rather gray one, with more to chew on. Both characters are flawed, but also correct in their own ways. and they learn something from each other in the end. And that's what separates this from an episode like Thomas, Percy, and the Coal, or Love Me Tender, where both of the protagonists are very obviously flat out in the wrong. I don't know about you guys, but I find an episode that actually goes to the trouble of showing the rights and the wrongs of both sides of the conflict like this to be much more satisfying. This isn't the only episode to have this sort of narrative structure either. Other fine examples would be Wayward Winston, Letters to Santa, and Respect for Gordon. And all these are episodes I would really like to talk about someday. Maybe I will. But episodes like this are too far and few in between, if you ask me. But that's okay, because it makes Henry's Hero all the more special. Without a doubt, this is Henry's best episode in the CGI series, and it's Hero's best episode of all time. Two very well-rounded characters in a very well-rounded episode. One of the CGI series' finest.